Good evening, everyone. To begin the meeting, I'll acknowledge the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, including traditional custodians of this land, the Wadandi and Kaniang people of the Noongar Nation, paying respects to elders past and present. We'll declare the meeting open at 5 p.m. This briefing session is being live streamed and recorded in accordance with Council Policy EMCP2. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of the meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. While every effort has been made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting, loud comments or noises may be picked up on the recording. Agenda briefings are open to the public to attend and observe. However, any questions, deputations or petitions are presented at the Ordinary Council meeting. There'll be no debate-style discussion, as this needs to take place in the ordinary meeting of Council when the issue is set for decision. Attending tonight, we have Councillor Peter Gubler is not here yet. There he is. Good timing, Pete. Right on time. Councillor Grant Patrick, Councillor Lisa Glover, Councillor Anita Lindeman, Councillor Diana Shand, Councillor John Bailey and Councillor McCarthy. Staff present are Nick O'Connor, Chief Executive Officer, Lauren Clifford, Acting Director Finance and Corporate, Michelle Dennis, Manager Development Services, Meta Hazeldine, Manager Financial Services, Ross Marshall, Director of Operations, and Samantha Farquhar, Administration Officer, Corporate Services. And I welcome everyone participating via the live stream. Moving into the agenda at item 2.1, we have no apologies tonight. And item 2.2, approved leave of absence. At our Ordinary Council meeting on the 23rd of April 2025, Council resolved that Councillor Alexis Davies' request for a leave of absence for the June 2025 agenda briefing session and Ordinary Council meeting. So we've approved that. We'll move down now to item 4, declarations of interest. Division 6, Subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act 1995 states that care should be taken by all councillors, committee members and staff to ensure that a financial or impartiality interest is declared and that they refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. And my apologies, Councillor Mitchell, I didn't record your attendance via live stream. And
that's also, fine, thank you. I've also got that impartiality submitted, thanks.
And that's item 9.1.2, is it?
Yes,
okay.
I think. Dam 1.
The dam, yes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Right, as we have no public question time or presentations, we'll move straight through to item 7, confirmation of minutes.
Sorry, just a moment. Was it necessary for Councillor Mitchell to read that declaration of where she's sitting and who's in the room and all that sort of business?
No, it's not. It's just an agenda briefing.
Oh, just because I thought we were covering off some of the confidential stuff as well.
The two. All right. Do you have that with you, Councillor Mitchell, the declaration of confidentiality?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
If someone could send me the wording, I'll keep going, and when I get it, I'll read it. Thank you.
Yes, because it's only when we get to the confidential items at the end.
Yes.
Good
okay.
point.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for that pickup, Councillor Lindeman. Okay. Item 7.1, Ordinary Council meeting minutes. Councillors, do you have any questions? This is for the May 2025 meeting. No. Moving into 8.1, reports of committees. 8.1 is Local Emergency Management Committee meeting of May 2025. Do councillors have any questions? At 8.2, the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held in May 2025. Any questions? Moving on to item 9, reports of officers, and at 9.1, Director of Operations, we have 9.1.1, Development Application P24084, Extractive Industry for the Donnybrook Stone, Renewal, Lot 102, Beelarup Road, Beelarup. Michelle, would you like to give an intro to the item?
Thank you, Madam President. Trustee Sam will just bring up a presentation. This bit? Ooh, yes. Do we need to check if Councillor Mitchell can see this?
Councillor Mitchell, are you able to see the presentation?
Oh, that's okay. I'll follow along. It's fine.
Thank you.
And sorry, Show President, Councillor Mitchell, do you mind just confirming you received that statement from Mrs Clifford? She's emailed that through.
Only just arrived. Just bear with me. Pursuant to section 14CA bracket 5 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, I, Councillor Anne Mitchell, declare that I'm situated in a location where I can maintain confidentiality throughout the duration of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell.
Okay. Thank you, councillors. Do I point at this or do I point at that? It worked before. Yeah, I saw it move too. But it was good at the slides, but it's fine. Ooh, something happened. It vibrated. If you could just click, please, Sam. So this is just a bit of a brief overview of the proposal. I acknowledge there's quite a lot of information in the report, but just a summary for councillors. This is an existing quarry. It's been in place for a number of years. The application is for continuation of quarrying activities as well as some site processing. So the site is Lot 102 Beelarup Road in Beelarup. The applicant is requesting a 20-year approval period, which is a bit more than what some of the other extractive industries generally do, but under our extractive industry local law, we can issue licences for up to 21 years, subject to annual renewal. The previous development approval was issued in 2004, so this is the subsequent one. And there's a change of use, so there is an existing planning approval for a storage shed, excuse me, on the property, and they want to utilise that for processing. On the plan, that's just showing at the top the current active face, if you like, if that's the right way to say it for a quarry, and then the bottom arrow is showing the location of the processing shed with reference to Beelarup Road. There's another plan on the next slide, please, Sam. Apologies, it's a bit grainy. This is taken from the application and it is also in the report. So this is just trying to show where things are. So currently the applicant accesses water from a neighbouring property, and that is one of the items that needs to be resolved as part of the advice notes that is listed. There's an existing dam to the west, and then that just shows the processing shed. There's also a southern pit, and that's not proposed to be part of this particular approval. DWER have identified some concerns around the potential for stormwater there, so they've suggested additional information, but at this time The applicant is a long way from getting to the southern part of the site. So the land is zoned general agriculture. It's an advertised use, and the reason it's coming to council is because a number of objections were raised. It's within the Special Control Area 4, which is the established Donnybrook Stone. So I'm sure council are aware within your town planning scheme, there's been some mapping done of this resource, and it's considered to have state significance, so that's why it's been sort of quarantined, if you like. There's also some stone being purchased from another quarry that's been inactive for a number of years, so we've identified that as happening, and we want to address that as part of this development application. So that's from another quarry in Irishtown. The applicant only proposes to use as-of-right vehicles with 6 movements per week. So 1 movement in and out per day, Monday to Saturday. And then if there's any additional kind of campaigning, a bit like similar to the gravel extraction, if there's a lot of processed material needing to go out, or it's going to be more than those vehicle movements, then we've asked for them to, as part of this approval, that they'll need separate approval for that. The crossover's proposed to be sealed, and there's some conditions around operating hours to address some of those concerns raised in the public submissions. Next slide,
Thank you.
please.
Oh,
Sorry, there's a couple more. So these were the objections around visual amenity, impact on the character, hours, noise, dust, traffic, and as I said, Dwyer had quite a number of comments. That's a picture of the current face of the quarry. Would you say that's the right explanation? Next slide, please, Sam. There's a few more recent pictures that were taken. We had a site visit on the 27th of May just to finalise the report. So the one at the top shows Beelerup Road. There's a bridge on Beelerup Road, that's the bridge. The photos to the right show that same face from a different angle, as well as some recent clearing that was done of some old pine resource there. Next one, please, Sam. Applicant is open to councillors attending a site visit if anyone's interested. The weather's going to be pretty horrible in the next couple of days, so the suggestion is either Monday or Tuesday. They're available at any time on those days, so if anyone's interested, let me know and we can tee something up. And that's it.
thank you. Thank you, Manager Development Services. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Lindeman?
Yes, through the chair, could I ask, were there any photos in that of the Irishtown quarry that's proposed? Were there any photos there?
No, the Irishtown quarry is an existing quarry that's been put into care and maintenance. So the quarry that's shown there is the existing one in Beelerup, but there's a number of, do they call them blocks? Slabs of material that have been quarried from the Irishtown quarry that are in stockpiles at Irishtown, and they're proposing to move that material from that site to this site for processing.
And probably just a question through the chair. The relevance of that to this application is the traffic impact and the traffic movements. That's the relevant material for consideration for this.
Yes, that's right.
Councillor Shand?
A couple of questions, or actually 3, if I can continue them in a row. Yep.
Go ahead, yes.
I note that it says Saturdays for carting. How much of an impact would it be? We've asked this many times on extraction, that it's part of one of the, not objections, but comments that this has been here for 20 years and they've been coming and going for 20 years on Saturdays. Whether or not there would be a huge impact on them to not cart on a Saturday. So that's my first question. The second one is around the dust. Have there previously been, in the last 20 years, been any other complaints in relation to the silica dust? I think it's important that we note, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I couldn't see that this has been referred to the Department of Health, that DWER actually said, this is not our area. It's actually, well, we can comment on so much, but then it's the Department of Health. Now, obviously, if we've seen a whole industry shut down through silicosis, through engineered stone. So there would be a responsibility on us to ensure that there's no, medical. So have we gone any further with going to the Department of Health in relation to the possibilities that this creates? Because at point 7, under the dust management, it actually talks about investigating it, but that's on the onus of the applicant and not us. So I'm asking, have we gone further with the Department of Health?
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. So as far as not carting on a Saturday, we have proposed these conditions to be in line with other recent extractive industries, and the applicant requested carting on a Saturday, and they've also actually requested additional hours for processing. So that is something that council need to weigh up, and we were actually going to suggest that the applicant express that as part of a deputation to address those kinds of questions, because I can't comment on their business practices, but they definitely have, as part of our process, we send them the draft conditions, and the carting and the operating hours were two of the things that they wanted to clarify. As far as the dust goes, I'll have to take on notice whether or not we did refer it to the Department of Health. The proposed dust management plan is to address those concerns. It would be fair to say that silica is a recent occupational risk that's come to light, and the applicant has a duty for their own staff to manage that risk. The processing activity within the shed is a wet operation. That's partly to reduce the dust, but also to consolidate the material that comes from the cutting, because it sounds like, excuse me, that byproduct has a value as well. So they're trying to capture as much of that as possible because they have an end market for that as well. But I'll have to take on notice where we're at as far as if we did refer it to the Department of Health. But it would be fair to say that the health risks, it would primarily be more than likely be an OSH risk rather than an off-site risk, particularly given they apply water to the cutting process as part of what they do, and most generation would be happening within the processing shed, not on site where they're cutting the large stone. Hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you very much.
Did we refer it to the Department of Health?
Sorry, the questions about have there been any complaints?
Oh, complaints, sorry.
In relation to, because if my memory serves me, the WinSoc was done with computer modelling, and DEWA also noted that 9 and 3 was insufficient. So my concern is that there are particulate dusts that occur. So have we actually got objections, or have we received complaints that people have noticed fallout when this mining has been occurring?
Sorry to have missed that one. So no, there's no recent complaints, but as part of the objections, residents raised that as a concern. So no recent complaints, but definitely part of that. And I'm not sure if also previously the site where they were actively cutting was quite well screened from view. So, people would hear noise, but they wouldn't necessarily see it. And it was definitely more visible now than it would have been in the past 20 years.
Thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, through the chair. Just two quick questions. Volume to be extracted, and it may have been in the report, and I apologise if it wasn't, I've missed it. Is there an expectation of a significant increase from what's already been happening for the past 20 years? Do we know anything about the volume? Because, yeah.
So the conditions reflect the applicant's proposal, and that's what they've indicated, 5,000 tonnes a year. That also has to do with, my understanding is, around prescribed premises. So if you're under a certain threshold, it doesn't trigger additional requirements. But certainly that's their proposal, and that's what we've reflected in the conditions and how we've assessed things like traffic movement and things like that.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, but do you know, was that significantly more than the previous proposal? I know the previous proposal was in there, but I didn't get to it. Was that, I guess my question is around, are we neighbours and residents expecting to see significant difference in what's been operating for the past 20 odd years, is sort of what I'm trying to get at there.
I'll have to take that one on notice, excuse me, because the previous approval didn't reflect an actual volume. It doesn't seem like that was a contemporary practice back when those original extractive industry licences were issued. It was just sort of a approval, go ahead, and now in recent times we sort of reflect either the applicant's proposal or if there's a threshold where traffic considerations are something, we kind of tie them to the condition. So I'll take that on notice if that's okay.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
just one other, if that's okay.
Councillor Patrick.
The repurposing of the shed, so going from storage to processing, obviously introduces significant noise. Couldn't see on the map there, are there neighbours close on that side where the shed actually is? Because obviously there's going to be noise generation coming from there. Can you tell me from a layout perspective, are there neighbouring properties close to that shed?
Yes, there are. So the applicant, as part of the conditions, has been requested to provide an acoustic assessment. Their own view is that the equipment that is used, you can talk like we're talking now while the equipment's operating. When we were on site, they weren't able to demonstrate that because they were getting some power installed and they didn't have any power. But that was certainly their feedback. But we've actually asked for that to be shored up in an assessment and reflected in a noise management plan.
That question is probably a good introduction back to whether anyone would like to have a site visit on Monday and Tuesday. Would councillors like to put a hand up to say whether they want first of all, whether you want a site visit, and then I'll do Monday or Tuesday. Do councillors want a site visit?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and Monday
Yes, Monday.
or Tuesday? What was your preference? Either one? Tuesday.
Yeah, probably Tuesday.
Right. And Grant, you don't know because you haven't got your calendar. The best way to do this?
If councillors could just let me know their preferred time, I'm sure the applicant would enable a site visit on Monday and Tuesday. So, but if we could sort of shore it up to one time slot on Monday and one time slot on Tuesday, I think that would be helpful.
Yes. We have we're hosting South West Country Zone meeting here on Monday. So, sorry, Boyup Brook, but we're doing it here on Monday, yeah. So
9 till 1.
Monday. Councillor Lindemann,
Okay,
sorry.
can I ask just the site visit, are we able to go to Irish Town as well?
That's not actually the subject of this application, and the applicant doesn't own that site. The owner of that site's operating, they're in care and maintenance and they're based in Perth, so to have a site visit there would be a bit tricky.
But they will be taking stone from that site, or it's going to be delivered? I'm confused. It says 5,000 and 2,000. Is it 5,000 in total, processing that 2,000 lot from Irish Town?
While you're doing that, can I just finish off the Monday, Tuesday piece? CEO, do you think we should just lock it in on?
It's up to the will of council, but I just thought I'd remind you that yes,
Yeah.
from 9 till probably 2 p.m. where we've got the
We're out of action.
the Walga
Okay.
Southwest Zone. Yep.
So to be, if it's Monday, it's later in the day, and we'd say probably about 3. So 3 o'clock Monday, is that all right for Monday people? You Monday? And Tuesday, what would be a good time on Tuesday? The same time? 3 p.m? 3 p.m? Okay, so let's try for 3 p.m. on Monday or Tuesday. If you can message Mrs. Dennis and let her know your preferred date, that'd be good. All right? Any further questions?
Sorry, Madam President,
Sorry.
can I just clarify Councillor Lindeman's question? Councillor Lindemann, just to try and understand, so there's no extraction happening at Irish Town, so that's purely just taking what's already been extracted over there. And the way we've reported that, we're saying there's 2,000 tonnes coming from there just for processing. and up to 5,000 tonnes coming from the Beelarup site for extraction and processing.
So it would be a total of 7,000 of processing, is that
Processing.
correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair, on page 31, there's a mention of a $20 million insurance to cover the licensee and the local government. Can you explain that to me, please?
Thank you. Are you able to explain that, or do we need to take that on notice?
No, I can explain that. Thank you for the question. It's a condition of our extractive industry local law that there's an insurance policy to indemnify the Shire and the contractor as part of their operations.
Indemnify the Shire for what?
I have to check the wording of the local law.
It would be
Yeah.
any liability arising from the approval and the subsequent
Yeah,
operation.
that's the kind of
That
thing.
would be my estimate with that, and we'll take the question on
Yep.
notice.
Take that on
But
notice.
that would be my off-the-cuff response, councillor.
Any other questions? Councillor Bailey? Can you just pop your button? It's kind of
Sorry,
switched off
can you
again.
bring up page 31 for me, please? No, it's page 31, I think, is it? I didn't get back to the office. There's mention there of on dust suppression, and it says plan should formalise dust suppression. I'm just wondering why we'd use the word should instead of will, and the word recommended.
Thank you. Is that in the conditions? I will leave that to you, Mrs Mitchell, unless you just want to take it on notice. To 31.
Yes, I'll take that on notice as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Glover.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm noting that back in the original application, which was on the 1st of November 2004, there was a deposit for $30,000 for rehabilitation of the site and $5,000 for the roadworks maintenance of Beelarup Road. I'm just curious, I believe that I've also read that in the application as well. It's the same amounts. Is that correct?
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Mrs Dennis? Yeah.
Yes, it's acknowledging that that's a current bond that is in trust that the Shire holds. So the proposed advice note is the condition relates to having a bond, and the advice notes acknowledge that there is already that in train and for it to be carried forward.
Thank you.
May I follow on with that question, please?
Yes.
So is it going to remain the same amount?
Yes, and it's actually a lot higher than what some of the other extractive industries are required to have. This is something that we've identified needs to be reviewed as part of our extractive industry local law, because there is very little consistency between what people are being asked to provide as bank guarantees for rehab.
Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you, councillors. Councillor Glover.
Sorry, I also noted that back in like 20 years ago, when we had the original approval, crossovers to be constructed and sealed to the standard that comply with the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup crossover specifications. I note that that's actually still in the application. Was that carried out 20 years ago, or is it to be redone or renewed?
Thank you, Councillor Glover.
It certainly doesn't look like it's been done, and there's now a timing limit put on that, which will ensure that it gets done this time.
Thank you. No further questions, we'll move on. Item 9.1.2, develop an application P25008 for a new dam, Lot 70 and 903 Valentine Road, Upper Capel. And Councillor Mitchell has expressed her interest in this, but can remain in the conversation. And any questions, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Patrick.
Thanks. Just one question. I know throughout the submission and within the recommendations, there's some talk around ensuring that water flow continues through to the neighbouring properties and so on. I appreciate the applicant is getting a hydrologist in to make sure that the design and everything supports that. I suppose my question is, what does the Shire do to ensure that the information or the design provided by their hydrologist is actually true, accurate and fair, if you get what I'm saying, rather than just relying on the information that they provide to the Shire?
Thank you, Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Councillor. So this development application is necessary before DWER can consider an application. So DWER are the specialists in this field and they would be the ones making the final determination and ensuring that these are addressed. We are aware that one of the submitters is concerned about an existing crossing on this property, and DWER are actually actively involved in dealing with that at the moment. So if for some reason it doesn't work as designed, there is still measures in place that DWER has under their processes to arrange for rectification.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. Item 9.1.3, Development Application P25011, Kirrup Tavern, Extended Licence Area for Events, Lot 101, 47, Southwestern Highway, Kirrup. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Shand.
Do we know what, do we know what it's currently licensed? The venue is currently licensed to hold in its current state?
Thank you. Ms. Dennis?
Yep. Thank you. 150 people, if your question is relating to patron numbers.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
so this is an additional 150 that they're looking at covering? Or where are they capping their numbers?
Thank you, Councillor Shand.
So the site currently doesn't have sewer because there's no sewer available in Kirrup. So the on-site effluent disposal is actually the limiting factor for any development on this site. So then there's no proposal to change numbers. It's just to provide additional licensed area. So at the moment, people can't lawfully take a drink out in that area. So this is to increase the trading area that's licensed. And to do that, they need both development approval and a licence from liquor licensing. But no change to the capacity numbers at all.
Thank you. Any further questions? Moving on to item 9.1.4, Dark Down South Open Air Festival. Director of Operations, would you like to introduce the topic?
Thank you, Madam President, and to give Michelle a rest. Look, it's a bit of a rinse and repeat from last year. However, there is a couple of subtle differences which I'd just like to highlight to Council. Namely, like the dates are very similar. They're both late November. The applicant actually asked for a reduced number of patrons. So last year, Council approved 650 patrons, but up to 850 people, including staff and vendor operators. This recommendation is a stricter cap at 500. But like I said, this was requested by the applicant. And anecdotally, I believe they had about 200 people turn up to the event last year. The duration is the same, other than just an extra night of camping for the organisers, so for their bump in and bump out. The fire restrictions, we've broadened that just to be consistent with what we've been doing with more recent event applications. So rather than just saying that, the fires are restricted, we've expanded it to say other obvious things like fireworks and the like, including, because sometimes pyrotechnics can be associated with, these types of events. So we've just broadened that to make it very clear. And again, being consistent, we've put a recommendation in for a first aid post with qualified officers. We've also put a time period on the traffic management plan that we seem to always get those late. So the traffic management plan must be approved by Main Roads given the access to the site, and we've asked for that to be 7 days prior to the event. We've added some clauses in there for the food vendors if they're using potable water carters, just that they need to be approved. And another couple of recommendations, including that dogs should not be permitted, and tightened the prevention of rubbish on neighbouring properties. So last year we had an informal debrief with the operators. There was no negative feedback, quite the opposite. There certainly was a little bit of conjecture before, but anecdotally most of the feedback we got was actually quite good, and from an economic development point of view as well. We are outside of the high threat period again, so just for your reference, Council approved the prohibited period as being 15 December to 31 March for 25-26. Any questions?
Councillor Shand?
So there were no complaints from the public?
We received a number of complaints before the event, but after the event, there were no complaints, and 2 of the very vocal complainants actually wrote in to say how pleased they were with the event.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to 9.1.5, Indigenous mural to complement the Yarning Circle. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. I guess it's just one question, and it's really just to clarify and put on the record. The funding for this is funding that's already been received and has been sitting there waiting to be spent on something as part of this project. Is that correct? Yes. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Moving into 9.2, Director of Finance and Corporate. 9.2.1, Schedule of accounts paid as at the 31st of May 2025. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Glover?
Yes, I just only had one question, which is probably a relief. And I'm just finding it. We've flicked through the agenda so quickly. I just wanted to ask about, it's a refund of grant, which is $15,750. Just wondering what that was in relation to, why we're paying out for a refund of a grant.
Do you have the EFT?
I do have the EFT. 30858.
30858.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
That's the defense.
Visual boards. Yeah, I can probably answer.
Thank you, Director of Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. That money's been sitting with us for a couple of years, I believe, without actually a business case to understand what the whole life costings would be for that signage. So it related to signage that you might see in other areas where you drive into a shire and there's digital display on what the current fire danger rating is. Those signs, I think they're worth about $30,000. But then there's lots of ongoing licensing costs, and obviously then we've got the renewal. With the new Emergency WA app, what we actually plan to do is, rather than actually put up these boards, is actually put up a QR code. So then we don't have to maintain it, there's no licence, everyone's getting used to the app, and it is a brilliant app if you are using it, rather than creating another asset for council to maintain.
Thank you. Okay, item 9.2.2, Statement of Financial Activity, the report for the period ending 31st of May 2025, and Meta Hazeldine will introduce the report.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could just ask if you could put up the Statement of Financial Activity from the attachment, please. Okay. So the statement of financial activity for the period ended in the 31st of May. So I've just worked my way down through the line items there. So ones to report on. So the underneath the operating activities for the grants and subsidies and contributions, we have a year-to-date actual of 1.4 against a budget estimate of 2.3. With an unfavourable variance there of 904,000. So a breakdown of this is also included in the explanation of material variances. So the income here is recognised as the expenditure is occurred. So the protection of environment grants, there's a $400,000 variance there, which contributes towards that 900,000. And also there is a insurance reimbursement here that has been budgeted for as well in relation to the bridge, which has not been recognised yet in the actuals, which is about 492,000 there. Both of these being timing variances. Just working my way down there, back into the interest revenue. There's a $81,000 favourable variance there, which is now permanent as we're close to the end of financial year. Moving down into the expenditure side, employee costs, about 134,000 there. Favourable variance against a budgeted year-to-date of 6.1. So the areas that are less than estimated or less than budgeted for being other welfare of 28,000, town planning 38,000, admin of 123,000, and streets and road maintenance of 54,000, which is offset against variances that are greater than budgeted, being fire prevention at 41,000 and public works overhead at 89,000. Both still being timing, as there's going to be some adjustments at the end of financial year. Next is the materials and contracts. So we have a favourable variance there of 638,000. And a breakdown of this is also in the explanation. So we have some of the big variances there are the other governance consultants at 106. We also have waste consultants, savings in waste consultants for 147,000, and the streets and road maintenance of 228,000. Offset against some areas that have been spent that are greater than the budget, being the DFIS ESL bushfire brigades of 52,000 and the environmental projects of 15,000. Working my way down, the loss on asset disposals here, the variance of 104,000, being the disposal of an infrastructure asset there, not being budgeted for. Yes, so that's related to a bridge that's been converted to culvert, that's correct. Moving along from there into our investing activities. So income from capital grants, subsidies and contributions. So the income here is recognised as the expenditure is incurred. So some of, as you can see here, we've got a year-to-date actual of 4.4 against a budgeted amount of 6.3. So the variance of 1.8 million there is broken down into several different grants. So we've got some of the big ones being main roads, 660,000, roads to recovery, 383,000. and then offset by some offset against some income that has been greater than what was budgeted for, being VC Mitchell grants and the regional road group grants as well. Both of these are timing variances. Moving on from there into the payments for property, plant and equipment and payments for infrastructure. Both here are tracking at so we have a budgeted year-to-date spend of 14 million against the actual being 9.6. And we also have a really good breakdown of this again in page note 5 in the capital acquisitions on page 12 of the attachments, which gives us a breakdown of all the capital acquisitions for property, plant and equipment and infrastructure in the year-to-date budget against what has actually been spent. Yeah. So that gives us a closing position of 1.28 million for the year-to-date actual against a budgeted deficit of 1.5. Is there any questions?
And that's,
Sorry?
and sorry, through you, Chair, that sort of differential is in regards predominantly around the timing of the FA grant?
Correct, yes. There's a lot of timing variances there.
Thank you very much, Meta, for a comprehensive explanation of the variances. It's very much appreciated. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Lindemann?
This may be, through the chair, this may be something you can answer or not. I'm always interested in the rec centre year on year, how it performs. Is it up? Is it down? More expensive? Less patrons? I'm not sure. I just wondered whether you were able to say how we're tracking in regards from, say, last year to this year, maybe with memberships up or down, whether we've got a less loss than before.
CEO?
Yeah, sorry, unless Meta my understanding is that memberships are up and revenue is up. If councillors would like a bit of a breakdown, both from a financial perspective, but also, memberships and how the general operations of the rec centre is going, then I'm happy to put that to Mr. Pepler and ask him to provide a briefing if that's the will of council. Yeah. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you, Ms. Hazeldine.
Like watching tennis.
I guess my question then is, the answer is yes, please. And the reason being there's only a few things. So the question is, are there only a few things that we can control in regards to bringing in more revenue, such as a rec centre is one of those few things? Would that be about right?
I don't know. Director of Finance and Corporate had some good news when she walked in tonight. So there are other areas where we can generate additional income, and that's what we're after in order to close the long-term financial plan gap, is to increase recurring revenue. And did you want to just mention that one, Lauren? The Space to Co? Yeah.
So just for council's knowledge, since going live yesterday at 3 p.m, on Space to Co, just with the transit park in Donnybrook, we've had 118 bookings from 3 p.m. yesterday, and that's only with existing Space to Co people with Space to Co accounts, so not even the general public or anyone that we've informed. So that's a great outcome, considering that's from 3 p.m. yesterday afternoon. So we've got the Ballingup Hall, the Donnybrook Hall, and the Preston Village Hall also going live on the 1st of July.
And probably just for the fuller picture, a question through you, Chair. Prior to us implementing that Space to Co, what was the process for people booking? They'd have to book at the front counter or ring? Yep.
Going on, we had another platform that was used through the Shire website. However, this is a bit of a transition period for those users as well. So, It's just getting it out there and another way of the people being able to just get on board and, book online. And it seems to be kicking off really well. So hopefully the rest of them will follow suit. So,
Well done.
I just probably just add, probably going back to, through you, Chair, back to Councillor Lindeman's question. So happy to give you sort of an interim undertaking, but as part of the May OCM, you'll recall that one of the directions or resolutions that Council made was to instruct me and the Council team to kick off a service review process. So it's a structured process about strategically looking at the services we provided. One of those services that we will be looking at reviewing, haven't come up with the timing around it, will be the recreation centre. So that's an opportunity, I think, from a councillor strategic perspective for us to talk about, you know, the trends there, the service offering and the service delivery model moving forward. So that's a strategic opportunity for us to do as part of that process.
Thank you, CEO. If there are no more questions in that area, we'll move on to 9.2.3. Council Policy FIN/CP-9, Related Party Disclosures. We'll go straight to questions. This is all about changing in timings. Any questions? No. Item 9.2.4, Delegations Register Review, and Director of Finance and Corporate is going to introduce this item.
thank you, President McCarthy. So the review of the Delegations Register is an annual review. The review assessed the recent changes to legislation, the delegated local government responsibilities, and as well as the Shire's operational requirements for continuity of service. The review has identified the need for 4 new delegations and amendments to 3 existing delegations, and 1 delegation proposed to be revoked. So the changes for consideration are outlined in the report, and collectively they enhance the CEO's ability to act effectively within the legislative frameworks and reflect the recent changes updated across the Local Government Act, the Building Act and the Public Health Act 2016, which have been a long time coming with the Public Health Act changes, and they will also improve for the clarity and compliance and operational responsiveness. Council asked to receive the annual statutory review of the Shire's delegation register, inclusive of those changes outlined within the report.
Are you able to comment on the Attain software that's leading into this process?
We have some new software that we have installed, and it's called Attain, and we're using it for our delegations register, also for the reporting with regards to the related parties review, the annual returns, and the software is actually used to track all the changes. We'll track the delegations used within the Shire, and is just a bit more comprehensive with regards to keeping track of the changes with legislation.
I assume there's also automation as part of that.
Yes, and automated workflows with regards to ensuring that delegations that have been used and captured are being reported in a timely manner.
Excellent. The controls that brings into play are just...
Yes, yep.
That will look good at audits. Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Shan.
I'm intrigued because there's legislation surrounding this. So why are we as a council having to vote on something that's legislative?
Thank you, Councillor Shan.
The reason why council need to vote on it, and it's an absolute majority decision, is because council as a whole are given the rights to the powers or the rights to do these things. However, you're delegating that power onto the CEO. So that's the reason why council needs to have the decision to make sure that they can delegate that power onto the CEO, who can then, with some of the delegations, sub-delegate that onto other relevant staff, depending on what the conditions are and what the legislation allows.
CEO?
And just to add to that, it's about administrative efficiency for everyday decision making, and Mrs. Clifford's exactly right. The majority of legislation empowers local government to make the decision, and I guess it would be somewhat of an absurdity for every decision to be brought up to council. We certainly wouldn't be finishing before the football if that was the case.
Nice reminder. Okay. Any more questions on item 9.2.4? Okay, as for 9.2.4, 9.2.5 is also an absolute majority decision next week. Lauren, would you like to introduce this report?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. So as required under the Act, the corporate business plan components of the council plan were reviewed at multiple workshops to ensure they remained aligned with community priorities, available resources and emerging trends and challenges. This annual review of the council plan has enabled council and staff to reassess its operational capacity, update financial projections and prioritise services and projects. The outcomes of this review will directly inform the development of the annual budget, which will be coming to council soon, and it will ensure that the future resources allocated in that budget reflect the most current strategic direction of council. As a result of these discussions, a number of changes were made to better reflect the Shire's strategic direction and operational focus. New and amended items, as outlined in the council plan, reflects the strategic shift towards a more targeted, inclusive and responsive initiatives. Many amendments emphasise collaboration with community groups, improved communication strategies and a stronger focus on sustainability and public health. For example, the council has introduced that the public health plan expanded its climate action efforts beyond previous partnerships and refined its approach to Indigenous engagement and volunteer recognition. These changes provide commitment to evolving community needs, which leverages our internal resources more effectively and aligns with the broader state and national priorities as well. Of those changes, there are some items that have been removed, which generally indicate that certain goals have either been completed or deprioritised. These include infrastructure projects like the Mundabiddi Trail realignment and wayfinding signage, as well as strategic plan deemed redundant due to existing services and programs that are already run currently in the Shire. The removal reflects a practical approach to resource management, ensuring that the Shire's focus on initiatives that offer the most value and relevance to current community priorities. The next step in our cycle will be the community benchmarking survey, which is a vital tool that we use to gather the feedback from our community stakeholders, our community residents and stakeholders about the service level, community priorities and overall satisfaction. These changes will be uploaded onto the website with the current community plan and the council plan, and the next review that we'll be doing will be a major review.
Thank you for a very thorough introduction. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Glover.
Thank you for the very thorough review. But my question is just in regard of timing, because noting that it needs to be not reviewed but kind of redone every 4 years. So that leaves 2026 when it's going to be done. And then you mentioned the community benchmark survey as well. When are we proposing to do these documents? Have we got a time frame around that?
Thank you, Councillor Glover.
Yes, we're just speaking now with regards to an external consultant with regards to the benchmarking survey. So we'll be trying to get that one out as soon as possible. Obviously, timing with regards to elections will be considered with that, and then that will commence the stakeholder engagement, the internal council staff engagement that we have to do with regards to the upcoming council plan. So that will be in line with next year. Yeah.
Any further questions? Okay, moving on to, we're skipping 9.3, Chief Executive Officer reports, and going straight to elected member motions, of which previous notice has been given. At 10.1.1, we have a report put forward by Councillor Bailey, and it's for council liability event approvals. And just a reminder that these are always difficult when we have an elected member report. Remember, we're not debating, we're asking and answering questions. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Goobler.
Yeah, I just picked up on the public liability is probably an important one, and I missed that out on that other discussion we had earlier about the Kirrup thing there, that really public liability, you know, when we drive a bus into the Calmland, we need a $20 million for 20 or 30 passengers, and then we go 500 people or 1,000 people, and we're still at the 20 million. So is there any work being done to analyse where that's going in the long run, you know, how
Thank you.
other people do it? Is
Thank
it
you,
per
Councillor.
head, you know, because, you know, if somebody has an accident, it might be $100,000 per person, and so that adds up to a lot of people, if, you know, if you've got 100 people get injured.
So your question is...
Yeah, so
is
it's
there any
public
external-
liability,
is there
you know,
any- Sorry, Councillor Goodman.
yeah,
Is your
Yeah.
question, is there any research being done
yeah.
to understand that variable, that movement between...
Yeah,
bodies?
that's right, yeah.
Thank you,
So, you
Councillor
know,
Goodler.
from one person to, yeah.
Thank
that's
you,
what-
Councillor Goodman.
That's the backing.
CEO?
Look, I'll just make a general statement that, look, there's no discrete body of work that's been undertaken by this Shire, but indeed, councillors, if indeed this elected member motion was passed, then we would obviously engage in a collaborative way with our mutual or our insurers, just to get a benchmark and essentially some feedback around exactly the question, the appropriateness of the public liability requests or requirements, and is there a nexus between the number of people, let's say it's for an event, and the actual level or the dollar value of the coverage. And then I guess I also understand maybe there's also a question to be asked, if indeed this is passed, around whether any changes has a material impact on reducing council's liability directly or indirectly from a subsequent claim, should there be one.
Thank you, CEO. Any further questions? Councillor Shand?
Mine's around a point that's made about the private farmland and the property owners of those farms, whether or not they should have their own insurances and whether or not there's provision within our applications to actually include that. Because as a property owner, you have liability. So is that something we can look at in an application process to ensure they have adequate and that their insurer is aware that they are actually holding functions?
And is your question to the CEO
It's actually,
or to John?
It's around that because I agree, I can understand what's being said here. And my question back to the Shire is that something that we can look at?
Thank you, Councillor Shand. CEO?
Yeah, can I suggest that would fall within the remit of our discussions with our insurers around, again, the adequacy of the current arrangements, and then whether the dollar value and then also the breadth of coverage and the parties involved and the requirements of that coverage, whether that was appropriate to make that as part of an application assessment moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor Lindeman?
Yeah, can I ask a question? It says to request the CEO to define the appropriate dollar amount for public liability for functions and festivals held outside of the Shire control area. In that recommendation, it doesn't speak of any numbers. So how do you come up, my question is, how do you come up with a figure if you're just talking a function or a festival? You're talking 20 people, or i.e. bus trip, or you're talking 1,000 people? So
Is it
it's
volume
not
related?
defined. So
Yeah.
my question is, how do you know what you're meant to be looking at?
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. CEO? Is your question to
Did you
CEO
want
or
or
to
to-
Councillor
Through
Bailey?
the chair to the person that well,
Councillor Bailey.
requesting the CEO. So I'll ask the CEO, does the CEO understand what this means for them to go ahead and do?
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman.
Yes, I'm aware of it, and probably just to provide a little bit of context, it may well be based on a number of the questions that have been answered tonight that there's not a definitive dollar amount that the insurers suggest, or indeed through our research, it may well be, providing some clarity around the criteria for a risk assessment for us to help us assess what is the actual dollar amount.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted some clarity. So there's a comment within this that says public liability insurance of 20 million. Oh, no, sorry, next line. The maximum payout for a single or multiple claims is 20 million in total, not 20 million for each claim. So the maximum payout for single or multiple claims is 20 million. So what this is saying is that the total liability coverage is $20 million for an occurrence. That's what this line is saying. So I suppose my question from there is, based on the fact that Adventure World, capacity of 4,500 people, really high risk activity, has a maximum coverage of $50 million, what risk do we feel, or does the person lodging this feel exists that is a greater risk than that, say, posed with 4,500 people at an adventurous theme park? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor
Through the
Bailey.
Chair. The location you're talking about is a controlled location. This location out here has road access that would not be approved for any other event anywhere.
Could I just do a point of order? I think we're talking about particular events rather than as a holistic view, and I don't think it's fair to pinpoint events.
Okay, well, let's what my whole aim
Just
is
a moment,
here.
can I just clarify that? This is not talking, is this,
Okay, my whole aim is here to make sure there's space between us and litigation. Now, what's interesting is we've got a mining extraction licence and we're asking them to indemnify us for loss, but we don't do it with anybody else. I mean, so this is the point. I don't believe there's enough coverage in
Councillor
different
Bailey,
events.
we're not debating. I'm sorry.
No, I'm making
We can
a
answer the
statement.
questions.
I don't believe there's enough coverage.
But Councillor
between
Bailey, the
insurance
question
and where we
came
are.
from Councillor Patrick.
Yep.
And if we've answered that, that's as far as we can go. We can debate next week, though.
No, I was asked a question about not picking the locations.
Sorry, Councillor.
Whatever we do, we need to put space between, we treat our insurance as somebody else's insurance. It's our insurance, it belongs to the people. Why are we putting ourselves in, it doesn't matter what event it is, why are we putting ourselves as a backup to liability, is my question.
Are you asking that of this?
Sorry, through the chair. And I'm sure the CEO will suss that out with LGIS and we'll come back and we'll be able to manipulate something that takes a little bit of risk away. That's what I'm trying to prevent here.
Okay, Councillor Bailey. I'm just mindful of sticking to questions and answers, okay? Let's try really hard to do that. It's always difficult when you've got an elected member report. So, any further questions? All right. Councillors, we're now moving into the two meetings that are close to the public at item 12. Do you think you have any questions on those items? If you don't, we won't worry to close the meeting, but if you do have questions, we can close the meeting. No? Okay. So we will call the agenda briefing closed at 6:07 p.m.